Finance and Investment Committee to order. And before we begin our agenda, I would like to introduce Mr. Mark Tucker. This is my new right-hand man, but sitting on my left hand. As we all know, Elaine Short will be retiring in mid-December, and he is already working with us. So glad to have you.
Thank you.
And have you had a chance to meet all the Budget Committee members?
I met them all at the September meeting that I came to.
Good. The first item on our agenda is to approve minutes, and that would be minutes for our October the 10th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you,
second.
Commissioner Jordan, seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Any additions and or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next item on our agenda is the investment report, and Mr. Beatty will join us. Good evening, Mr. Beatty.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. We, I see you noticed the LGIP rate, Commissioner. Believe it or not, it did go down. But on the top line of report, that CD is moved to Capital Bank, and it went from 25 basis points to 30 basis points, so it actually went up. We had 3 bids on that. 2 of them were down. But Capital, who has not bid in a long time, was a new bidder, and so that was up 5 basis points, which helps us some. But the LGIP, well, surprisingly a little bit, has been consistent at 10 basis points, but did drop to 9.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner P. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, if you will locate your fund condition report, Mrs. Nolan, our finance director, will begin with the development tax.
In October, we received $505,500 for development tax fees. That brings our total for the year to $1,390,500. Remind you, we estimated $2.5 million for that fiscal year.
Do we have some apartments
We
coming?
did, 204 apartments in Smyrna.
That's higher than any October in the past several years.
Yes.
Back all the way to 06, 07.
Right.
Okay, if we could move, please, to cash balances.
The balances at the end of October was $135,418,000, with $123,783,000 being borrowed funds. Operating funds, $11,635,000 being borrowed funds. One item of note that during October we did move the $7.4 million from the debt service fund as an interfund loan to the school other capital projects fund for Blackman Middle Annex. The sheriff office space acquisition should be to 0 by the end of this month. I think they've got the last payments, and that will close that project out.
Which one did you say, office space acquisition?
Sheriff's office space acquisition.
You were gonna close out the 1,400 or the 240,000?
The $1,453 is the 2012 project.
Are we ready to move to the revenue report?
Yes, ma'am.
Revenue A.
Revenue A. The general fund total is at 21.72% collected, and that does bode favorable compared to the other years presented. Just to let you know, our wheel tax is at this few months reporting 4% higher than we were last year, and our development tax is quite a bit higher than what we were last year at this time. Sales tax in the county as a whole, that's all the cities reporting, is 5% higher than we were last year at this time for 3 months reporting.
What was the budget on that?
Do you know?
flat,
Flat?
so it's really good for schools. I mean, on the rural area, it was flat. And it was an increase for schools, I can't remember the percent. But this is much higher than what we had budgeted, so that's gonna help close that gap that we have.
That means that they don't need any money from us for that expansion, right?
I didn't say that.
Won't be that much.
Motion approved.
Thank you.
Revenue B.
Second.
I mean, I kind of touched on both of them.
She
I'm sorry,
started.
I did both of them at the same
Commissioner
time.
Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Jordan.
You want to look at the second part?
They're all tracking equal to the previous years except solid waste, which is significantly higher. Am I looking at that right?
Yes,
Is it
you are, and
30.87?
a lot of that has to do with the sales tax being up in the rural area. It's 23% higher. You know, overall, everything is 5%. But just when you just look at the sliver that's in the rural area, it's 23% higher than it was last year this time.
Shop in the county.
Shop in the county.
Be careful, the cities will be out annexing again.
Eagleville is that big. It's in double digits. and
Eagleville
beyond.
has done quite well. That's in the city. They're 81% higher than they were last year
That's
for
great.
3 months. Just for-
Frozen supplies back in there.
They must have got the new dollar equipment.
Okay, gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the fund condition report? All in favor, please say aye. Thank you. We're ready now for the risk management financial report. Mrs. Stinson, good evening. And you just have financials tonight,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am, that's correct. Okay, if you're ready, we'll refer to Fund 264.
Just financial.
You never know what that's going to start, right? For the month of October, our per employee per month for our self-funded claims is $746 compared to a prior year of $964 for a year-to-date average of $839 compared to prior year of $883. When you combine the on-site medical clinic, we go to $785 per employee per month compared to prior year of $1,001 for a year-to-date average of $878 compared to prior year of $914. There's also another sheet included for you, which is just the calendar year tracking, which is showing 169,000 below on our revenue currently over expenses.
Why is that?
Well, we're not collecting enough money.
But it's better than last year's.
Correct.
Yeah,
Much better.
that's true.
Mhm.
And of course, it could change in the next 2 months what the picture looks like.
Okay, and the next fund is Fund 266.
On Fund 266, we're at end of October, $162,280 compared to prior year of $315,810. So we're running very well on this fund so far.
Let me ask you a question, maybe
Okay.
out in left field, since we
Right.
don't have a lot of other stuff. How has the Affordable Care Act affected the county here, or has it?
Well, there was some of the increase that we projected. It was about 3%, if I recall, was directly related to the Affordable Care Act and part of our premium increase that we will see for 2014. It has occurred because of some of the mandated changes in the benefit structure. One of those, as an example, would be having dependents to age 26 regardless of full-time student status. We do have employees taking advantage of that.
Now, that had just taken place a couple of years ago, though. At least
Correct,
one year.
but you continue to see more
Oh,
of the
okay.
population increase within that category. So that's just one example of it. Removing of some of the limits would increase our claims experience. So as you factor all those in, we see that type of impact.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, as long as we're on that subject, what about the $63 a person that's on it, that they're now talking about rescinding for the unions? The school board's unionized, correct? So wouldn't that affect the whole county that we don't have to pay it?
I didn't know we were
I didn't know we were unionized either.
Well, those teachers.
You're talking about the REA?
Yeah.
That's
Isn't
REA
that a
Association.
collaborative bargaining unit,
Yeah.
which no longer,
It's
collaborative
not a
bargaining's
union
no there?
anymore?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
It doesn't have bargaining power that it used to have.
Okay, so that means it's not a union anymore. Is that the definition?
But it wasn't a union to start with, we don't think.
Oh, okay.
It's an association, which is.
That's what I'd understood.
Club.
That's a shame. That's a save us a lot of money right there.
Motion to approve the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandlin.
Second.
And seconded by Commissioner P. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5, we have a request from Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority to adjust a loan, and Mr. Black and Mr. Woods will join us. And gentlemen, if you will look at your information, we have some history going back to 1999, and I'll ask Mrs. Nolan to remind us of the history of this, and then Mr. Black and Mr. Woods can add some more information.
Okay, in '99, the commission approved to loan the Airport Authority $639,724 to be paid back in monthly installments at $6,600 a month at 6% interest. In May of 2006, the Airport Authority requested an additional funding of $402,207 for improvements, and requested that they continue making the payment of $6,600 and paying this balance at 6%. And that's where we are today.
I thought we'd give them all they want at 6%.
That gentleman say.
I got a second for that.
Okay. And the next page is just where they,
Help tell the numbers a little bit.
it's where they are on the repayment of that loan. They currently are due to pay it off in 2019, and again, they're paying $6,600, and I think at 6%. So I think they have a request to make some adjustments to this. If you remember, they came in May. I'm jumping ahead. They came in May to ask for additional funding, and they wanted to wrap these two pieces together, and we said at that time we'd have to address this one separately. We could not do these things together. They had to be separate.
So, Chairman Ely, Mayor Burgess, committee members, we thank you for the opportunity to come back before you again. We have been working with virtually 6 different agencies trying to put the funding package together to do this project, and it certainly, you probably get tired of seeing us, but we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting real close. The big piece of the puzzle for the financing has been secured through the Federal Aviation Administration. They've approved a $4.5 million grant, so we're elated about that. So that gives us the opportunity to pull everything together in looking at how we can repay the money that we're borrowing from the county and the city. We feel like we need a little adjustment, modification to the existing loan. And the interest rate, it just would help us greatly in being able to meet our debt service. So we've also been working with the bond counsel and Lisa Nolan on trying to configure some other things with this total package. So that's kind of where we are.
7% is out of the question, right? We want to stay at 6.
Right, the current loan's at 6%. It pays out in about 7 years. I'm sorry, it was done 7 years ago. It pays out in about 5.5 years, and what we're asking for is to modify that to 2%, which is more in line with today's numbers, and extend that by 4.5 years to coincide with the note at Smyrna, which that was the other part of this loan. And just to remind you, this loan that we're talking about was all the infrastructure and utilities that we put into the west side of the airport. So it really made everything happen on that side of the airport. And this will just help us to move to that next step with our development.
This is.
So gentlemen, when you consider a motion, we really have 3 things that need to be included in this motion. The rate of interest, the request is to adjust that from 6% to 2%, and to extend the period 4.5 years. And then that would be, the payment would be $3,350
Per month.
a month, monthly.
Now, it says on the agenda, resolution authorizing 2.5 billion.
No, that's something else.
Million.
That's,
That's number
That's
6.
next.
We're on number 5.
this is the existing loan.
So we're gonna adjust the interest and we're gonna loan some more?
Yes.
All
Do you
right.
know how much it'll reduce your interest payments by? I see what interest is right now. It's just under $2,000 a month.
Over the life of that, if we extended it, it'd save us $24,000.
And the life being how long?
We would be adding 4.5 years to that, so it would pay out 2023, about 10 years.
Lisa, what is it gonna cost us?
This,
Yeah.
it's, you just won't have the revenue coming in the industrial development fund.
Which
I mean,
is amounts to how much?
oh, whatever that difference is, times 12.
And this money is all in the industrial development
It's
fund. It's
about-
not like it's general fund money anyway.
It's not coming into the general fund,
Yeah.
that difference is times 12.
It's about 25,000 a year.
It's 66. Yeah, I mean, that's about what we're getting now. It's about 25,000.
The
We
industrial.
got,
Well, the payment's 6,600, it's going to 3350.
3350.
But it's gonna be stretched out
It's
longer.
gonna be stretched out
4.5 years longer.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So the net
The net-
25,000.
The net savings to them, as far as what they're gonna ultimately pay, is gonna save them and cost us 25,000, 24,000.
24.
A
The
year.
industrial development.
Total,
Over
for this
the-
whole
Sorry,
life.
total.
Total.
Out of the whole life.
Over the next 10 years.
And we're tasked with the money in the industrial development fund to use that money to promote commerce and
Industrial.
industry and everything, which is exactly what's happening at the airport. Now, that airport's a driver in this county. You know, it's bringing in jobs and stuff. I mean, I know we're in the driver's seat apparently a little bit here on being able to do this, but this isn't like just giving taxpayer money away. This is helping create jobs and enhance the economy.
I don't have a problem in doing it, but the origination of it and starting it, you know, we looked at 6%, and then just 2 years down the road here, we're gonna adjust it. You
No.
know,
No,
it's been
since
six.
99.
Oh, 99. I was thinking the adjustment on we got 5 years left, and this was 2 years ago that we.
No, 7 years.
And this adjustment will help you secure the financing you need for the project we discussed in May. You kind of
It
need
makes the
this
cash
to.
flow better, because the original intent was to roll this into the 20.
Whatever we get.
So
That's what I was thinking.
It's
it
gonna,
kind
yeah.
of tightens it a little bit if we don't do this.
and it helps you to open up that whole new section.
Right.
Job creation. You know, if you have a little trouble justified in your mind, we paid the 6% when the rates have been down a long time, many years, and we paid the 6% on the larger amount. So more of that money's been going to interest.
Well, if
In the
interest
early
rates
years.
go up substantially, you would be open in 3 or 4 years to raising it if everything goes up. So, you know, you're in here or you're down. So, I mean, as long as y'all are open to kind of staying with the market to some extent, you know, then,
You know, it's a county's property, and we're just fiduciaries for the county. So if we see an opportunity to help the county, that's what we're doing. You know, we're acting on behalf of the county.
this isn't the private industry. This is the county's economy.
I understand.
I personally am in favor of helping out the airport authority, and I think most of us here, we're having a lot of fun on this interest rate right now. But, you know, I'm willing to go ahead and make a motion that we approve this, and do we have to add the percentage? You said 2%.
Okay, I'll reiterate that. It's adjusting the interest rate from 6% to 2%, extending the period from 4.5 years, extending it, excuse me, 4.5 years, and then the monthly payment would be $3,350.
I'll second that.
Have a motion from Commissioner P., a second from Commissioner Jordan. Any further discussion or questions for these gentlemen?
Well, I just wanted to say, I'm like Commissioner Jordan there. These guys have done a good job, and I appreciate what you're doing up there. You know, to me, Smyrna a long time ago wasn't something I was especially proud of, but you look at what you guys have helped drive in that area of our county, and it's phenomenal. And I want to thank you personally, and I know there's a lot of people that got good jobs in this county because of what you're doing up in that area, so thank you again.
Thank you for the comment. Absolutely.
And this does put this note at the same length as the existing one for Smyrna. So they'll be tied together. That's their next place they had to go.
Your next stop is.
Our next stop, next month, we tried to get on the agenda, but they were busy with some other administrative issues.
Just trying to hire a city manager or something down there.
Gentlemen, any further discussion relative to this motion?
I'm just getting
So
the
we're not
idea.
making it in contingent of then or anything like that. We're doing it if they're gonna do it or not. And, you know, as far as the public aspect of it, you know, we may catch a little flack off this from going down on an interest rate but the way I see it is we're family. And, I mean, this is county property, and so this is to help, you know, promote what these two guys have just said, you know, Rutherford County. So I don't have a problem with it. I just, you know, we're within the market anyway. Actually, a little above market probably. So
I think they think we're an easier mark than Smyrna, is why they came here first.
We're making the same request in the city of Smyrna.
Gentlemen, any
We
further
treat our parents
discussion?
equally.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Motion carries. Gentlemen, item number 6 on our agenda, we have a separate resolution authorizing 2.5 million general obligation bonds for the airport authority, and Mrs. Nolan will explain this to us.
If you go to page 2 of this, we're doing 4 different things in this resolution. And your analogy of us being a family comes to play in these sections. The first section is to approve a loan to the authority not to exceed $2.5 million for a term not to exceed 20 years at an interest rate of 4%, but upon issuing our bonds to pay these things, that the interest rate on the bonds will then be reflected in what the authority will pay us. That's section 1. Section 2 gives the authority to the commission to borrow $2.5 million, for us to go borrow the $2.5 million. Okay? Third part, because you're the parent of this, you are authorizing that the authority issue debt, $1.7 million to the town of Smyrna and $2.5 million to the county. Then the last part of it is approval to change our debt policy to include this paragraph. There's one section of our existing debt policy that I think covers it, but our bond counsel said there's no reason why not to make it more specific. And I believe that Town of Smyrna will also be adjusting their debt policy to include the same kind of language that just says that the provisions are applicable to debt issued for the benefit of Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority and supersedes any contrary provisions otherwise set forth in the policy. debt to be issued to finance a loan for capital improvements to the Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority, and to make a loan to the Airport Authority to finance such capital improvements shall be approved by the governing body. All debt issued for the benefit of the Airport Authority shall be payable from the revenues of the Airport Authority. The county may elect to additionally secure such debt with full faith and credit pledge of the county. And that's in our debt management strategies and our debt policy.
When we do the notes for the IDB, we're just a pipeline for them, and we're not actually responsible for those funds.
Now, this is different.
This one we are.
This is different, yes.
This is just like borrowing money ourselves.
Right.
And if you guys mess up, we're on the hook.
We understand.
Yes, and so if you'll go back to the very first page, our motion will be a resolution approving not to exceed $2,500,000 of general obligation bonds of Rutherford County, Tennessee, for the purpose of making a loan to the Smyrna Rutherford County Airport to be evidenced by such Airport Authority revenue bonds, approving the issuance of not to exceed $4,200,000 airport revenue bonds of the Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority, and amending the county's debt management policy.
And the other money you mentioned from the FAA, that's a grant, that's not a loan?
That's a grant.
It's a grant.
That's an outright grant.
So this is our matching portion.
Yeah.
And if you remember, they had to come to us and Smyrna to secure confirmation that you were supportive, so that when they went to the FAA, they could say, we have support. We have our match before they could go talk to them.
Yeah, I'm not real clear on, we're giving them authority to issue bonds up to 2.5 million.
You're
Or-
giving the authority approval to 4.2 million.
Okay, is that 1.78?
That's the 1.7 to Smyrna, and then the balance to us.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on how much.
It's Smyrna on the hook for the 1.7, and we're on the hook for the 2.5.
Right.
Who has
And on
first
20
lane? Who comes first if there is a default? Us or
Both
Smyrna?
of us.
Yeah, you're both on the,
Okay.
you know, you're both part of the
At
package.
20 years at 4% on 4.2 million, what's the monthly on that roughly?
Let's see, it's 70.
Because that's worst case, right?
4%, I think it's in 75,000.
1 million's about
Yeah.
70,000.
75,000 at 4% to do 1 million. So 4 times that. At 4, maybe.
A month.
No. And
No.
No, it's twice that for us. So 150. Is that right?
That's about right.
150,000 a year?
150,000 a year.
Yes.
So divide
At
that-
4%.
Okay, so divide that by 12 and you're talking 13,500
a
roughly.
month.
Or
Yeah, a month.
is it gonna actually be 4%, or it's gonna be whatever the bond
Well-
comes in?
Well, that's
It's
worst
what
case.
And then it'll be adjusted.
Right.
After it comes.
Whatever it
Because
comes.
we've been borrowing money at significantly less than
Right.
4%.
This will be different. It'll be a taxable bond instead of a non-taxable bond, tax-exempt bond. It's a little different because you are using this property
Well,
commercially.
their debt service is about 30,000 a month at 4%.
Yeah.
360,000 a year. On just that piece of the bond, of what we're talking about. Not the previous piece.
Right.
We've got plenty of revenue to cover that.
We hope so. We're in the rent business, and we feel like we're 100% occupied. Occupancy is 100% now on all of our hangars. We feel like the market is there to rent this space up. The great thing about it is when we get the infrastructure in, it opens up another 30 acres that allows us to be site ready to go and new industry, new prospects to the airport. So it's, you know, we're hanging it all on this one hangar and office complex to repay this, but the benefit we get's another, you know, 25, 30 acres that's site ready, that we won't be coming back to you for, hopefully, or we may, but if we do, we're gonna have somebody on the hook this next time.
And you're getting a total of between $8 and $9 million, right, between the
Correct.
grant and that's all going to infrastructure, or is that going to any construction on top of the infrastructure?
It's building a hangar.
It's a hangar.
It's a hangar and an office complex of about 40.
About 24,000 square feet of hangar, about 13,000 square feet of office, the connector taxiways up to that hangar, and the road on the other side, and the utilities.
Includes electric, water, sewer,
Is there gas out there?
gas is there.
Impact fee. I didn't need to bring that up. Hopefully not.
We haven't asked for building permit yet. We'll see how that shakes out.
I know how to shake out.
Well, I view this as sort of like the Airport Authority's avenue, that it's going to boom, that it's going to help them to boom. I know I live close enough to it that I get to listen to it. So, I've lived there for 35 years as it expanded. Nothing's crashed on top of my house yet. I've been able to sleep at night, so I don't think this is going to change anything for any of us up there. So I'll make a motion to approve the request as was stated.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jordan.
Investment in our economy.
Any further discussion relative to the motion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum,
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank all of you very much, Mr. Mayor. And Lisa's been very helpful through all this. Thank you.
This will go to the full commission.
With us also is
Yes.
Mr. Paul Lamb,
Yeah.
one of our board members for the airport board.
Make sure and be here next Thursday night.
This will-
Got one more hurdle
Yeah.
to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, we're ready for the general fund budget amendments. And our first amendment is from the Correctional Work Center.
Okay, this is a request to provide funding for the repair of a HVAC system. This also includes a 5-year maintenance agreement, and then requesting to move money other contracted services into the maintenance and repair of buildings of $33,500.
So moved.
Commissioner Sandlin, thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Baum.
That building 5 years old yet?
Yes, a little bit more than 5 years. We're out of warranty.
As soon as it goes out of warranty, bam, you gotta spend a bunch of money and buy a new warranty.
Sometimes you do, not every time though.
Now, this is the actual price. You're not gonna bid this from our discussion the other day in public safety.
Yeah, this is off of the, what they call the cooperative purchasing network, and where it's a group kind of buying thing that that train has got this particular compressor type in this program where you get this renewed compressor with the 5-year warranty.
Is this state or federal?
It's
Agreed.
not either one of them. It's just, there are several buying agreements across the country like that we can participate in if they have those set up, so.
Is this a U.S.
Now,
Communities
we've
kind
u-
of thing?
It's like
They
U.S.
signed that.
Communities, but it's not U.S. Communities, okay?
And those are, they're bid. It is a bid process.
Well, I was specifically told in public safety we weren't bidding this because it was an
Well,
emergency.
This is not let's back up. We don't have to bid this because you can buy off these cooperative agreements without bidding. It's like a
Because they've
GSA
taken a bid.
contract or a state contract or U.S. Communities, all of those, we can buy anything that we can find within those agreements. We can use those contracts. Like somebody else has already bid that for us, you might say.
Well, that's handy. I was under the impression we can only do that with state and federal contracts, so.
No, they've loosened that up in the last, what,
It
more
was,
than, more,
it's
2 or 3
even,
years.
it's a specific statute that says that we
NACO
can
and
use
U.S.
the NACO.
Communities.
Okay, I was just worried about bidding this out,
Right.
and that's not bidding it
We,
out. That's,
this really helps us a lot. They've changed the statutes all across the whole country.
thank you.
I don't mean to be disrespectful of anybody in county general, but this building's 5 years old. We're spending major money on the air conditioning. The Lane Agri Park's not much older than that. We're putting a roof on it. We've had tremendous issues with the pause, with the ventilation system and everything out there. I don't see these same problems coming through the school system because they may have a different system. I know Mr. Clardy's on top of everything and got more of a person and they've got a bigger building program, but maybe we'll probably look at what the school system's doing and maybe a little bit more oversight as far as design or building, because it seems like everything we build in County General, we're spending money on at 5 and 6 years old, and I don't see us spending significant money on a 5-year-old school in most cases. And like I said, I'm not trying to step on Mr. Mankin, does a great job. He's overworked, can't do everything at once, but we seem to be having problems with these County General buildings at a fairly young age. Now, I still think of a 5-year-old building as a new building, and we ought not be spending significant money on it. So.
Well, I agree with all that, but you see everything has to come through here that County General does. I don't know what comes through the school system.
Yeah.
And their budget
now and
is
then
a
they
lot
may have a
higher.
building that's 5 years old that has an HVAC unit that goes out too. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, but I don't know that.
Well, this is just, to me, it's just, another little stick, because I know the other two buildings, I still can't believe we're putting a roof, or about to put a roof we haven't yet on the Lane Agri Park building, which is 10 years old or something like that, or less, it's, I don't know, we ought to
Well, it is
try and
frustrating.
figure out a way to do better
When you hear
homework
what
or
they say
something.
about the roof, that was part of very poor installation on that roof.
Mm.
They used an air hammer and drove most of the nails through the shingles. That was before me and you, I guess. But
I
anyway,
was here, we were here, it was
so sometimes
about
they-
04, 05.
We don't go up on the roofs to inspect the roof to make sure they've got the job done right. So we
somebody
expect other
should have,
people to be doing
the
that.
architect, whoever should have, yes, sir.
Gentlemen,
I'll
we
get
do
off
have,
my soapbox.
we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
One thing I wanted to mention, and it didn't come out of here, if this unit goes down, whatever prisoners we've got at the Correctional Institute will have to be moved out of there. So that's why we've got to get this done. We don't have a lot of choice here. I don't like spending that kind of money, kind of like Will. And it's frustrating to have to on a building that new, but we don't have any choice there.
Well, yeah, when they have to be repaired, the buildings have to be repaired.
Yeah. This 5-year agreement, though, makes that unit as good as new, right?
Yes, it does.
That might not be such a
And
good thing.
you get preventive maintenance with that. A train actually comes out on a reoccurring basis and checks the thing.
Okay, we're ready for our next budget amendment from juvenile detention. Mrs. Dew, good evening.
Good evening. We have received a federal grant for $78,131, and we would like to recognize those revenues and into our budget. And the breakdown is in front of you, and if you have any questions, I'll happily answer them.
Make a motion approved.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second the motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Sandlin. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
From the Sheriff's Department, Mr. Russell, good evening.
All slicked up tonight.
Yes, sir. That look good for you guys. We need to move some money around in our budget to take care of a vet bill for one of the K-9s. So we're going to pull $2,300 out of our law enforcement equipment line item and put that into the vet services line item on our sheriff's office side budget.
So moved.
Commissioner Sandlin, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
I'm trying.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mr. Russell, a DEA fund budget amendment?
Yes, ma'am. We've had asset forfeiture funds last month in the amount of $190.72, and we'd like to put that into our 319 confidential line item, please.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jordan.
Do we have that on our?
No.
It's on next line.
Yeah, it should be
It's
number
in there.
8.
Number 8.
Because it's just separate accounts.
I just didn't remember seeing this at public safety. I know I didn't see
These
Yeah,
are the
the
ones that
other
you
one we
don't
didn't, but I
see.
had called and gotten approval. I
These-
just didn't call you because of
These don't go through
the
committee.
Yeah, this is the one that doesn't go to public safety because it's after they close their books that we get it, and then you see them here. And then they all go to the full commission.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item number 9, a request from the City of Murfreesboro for utility easements. Mayor Burgess.
Okay, this is a result of the work that's going to be constructed on the bridge over Broad Street. And of course, that is going to extend up even past where our building maintenance department is located. And this is for utility easements, some of which front Memorial, you might say, Memorial Boulevard there, and then another easement that goes across our property that goes over to Rice Street, which is goes by the Archives building. Okay, that easement's already there, but just there's a water easement there, so they're adding an easement that allows the gas people to come across there. So all of those easements, one of them, one that comes across our property is about 7,100 square feet, and one on the front, Front's Memorial is about 28, so we're talking about 10,500 square feet of easement that we would be granting. They're going to pay us a combination of, how many dollars is it, Lisa?
One is 44.
44,
There's two different
108.
ones. One is 44 and one is
16.
16, so it's about $60,000 for the two of them. In other words, you get a 10% increase if we go ahead and accept this number and don't go through the litigation condemnation process.
They're not taking any building. It's
Not
just,
taking any building,
No.
it's just, they're allowing more utilities to come across our property on the front of it, and then allowing the gas people to come across an existing easement that's already there,
This
from
was-
Broad back to Rice.
Yeah, I was thinking we'd already sold that easement to the state, right? And this is
Well, I think the
Murfreesboro City's.
property has already been sold, but this is just for utility access, okay?
we did something 4 or 5 years ago, it
Yeah.
seems like.
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
the
they've
state.
already,
Yeah.
they've already taken the property.
That was the property in
They need
front.
for the width of the.
So we're not actually, I mean, we're giving up the right of way, but we're not gonna lose any access from
No.
the road
We're just
over to
giving
the.
them a right to use that open land.
I mean,
on
we
the
open our front
frontage.
door, it's not gonna be right on the
No.
curb. It's close enough
You've
already.
already
so-
given them whatever land you've already sold them. I
This
suppose,
doesn't have
some
to
years
do with the
ago.
placement of the road or the bridge at all.
You got a point. So-
That's
Motion
not
approved.
necessarily second on that.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jordan,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Sandlin.
We may open
Discussion?
up a door though and see the road or the bridge or something.
Well, we're already pretty close there.
That's all. Got to
don't want you to
squeeze
be
down the
confused.
wall there to keep out the street.
When we get this money, what account do you put it in?
Probably sale of property or something. I mean, it'll be a revenue account. We'll adjust it later.
Any
We'll
further
close
discussion?
that gap. We already got the general fund.
You know, pay for a heat and air unit.
There you go.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Item number 10, EMS lease with Seaton Corporation, and Mr. Nunley is joining us. Mr. Nunley and Mayor Burgess.
Okay, this is the proposed lease agreement with the county, basically our ambulance department here, for the property in Seaton, which is St. Thomas, their system. And they've, of course, they had all that property out there where the old hospital was. They sold all of it except the property where we currently have our ambulance station there on Burton Street. And then directly south of that little station is the original PACE center there. So those, it's two separate pieces of property, but they adjoin one another. So this is a 50-year lease that they'll be granting us for $50. The right to take the PACE building and modify that into our administrative offices for EMS, and where EMS is located in that little residential house that's been converted to the little ambulance station, that would come down and we would be required within a 2-year period to put back another permanent ambulance station there. And so that's what this is all about. It's almost in final form. We would have a right, if they so choose to sell this, they would offer it to us first. So they have the time limit on how long we'd have to respond a little bit closer than we like. They had 45 days and we want to make it 90 days. So our attorney, our county attorney is talking to them about maybe increasing a couple of those little days there to give us a little bit more time if they actually do offer this to us at some point down the road to actually make an effort to actually purchase it. Other than that, it's complicated lease, but we think it's okay. And we're recommending that we go forward so we'll have a long-term solution to that particular problem there. That little building has been way, way inadequate for a long, long time.
And we had some talks about this a couple of years ago or something. I remember
Well,
something
we
about
thought this
building
would
a
happen.
building
It's
over there.
taken us a while,
Yeah.
actually a long time to get this done. So this has been in the discussion phase for
We
a year or more, maybe 2
$50,
years.
maybe we can negotiate that down a little bit, 48, something like that.
Could we not go ahead and upfront purchase that property?
They don't want to do that, no. And this requires that this property, long-term even, we have to continue to use it for a medical kind of purpose.
Right.
Did they pay property tax?
I don't think they pay property tax.
I don't know if the hospital pays property tax.
They're nonprofit, so
They're
if
nonprofit.
they've applied, they wouldn't be
Yeah.
paying.
I mean, it'd be better for them knowing if they were paying property tax.
I make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Commissioner P?
The stipulation that we've got to tear down the old ambulance building there, did they put that in, or where did that come from?
That's in there.
Who put it in?
Well, they drafted the lease, but we basically told them that's what we would like to do. Because what we've got is not really effective, you might say.
That building, I'm not sure how old it is, but we've been there since 1986.
It's
And
really
there's an
just a
old
little,
building there.
just a little double garage house is what it is.
Pretty similar to what we did in Smyrna. We had to deal with Smyrna, where it was at the old hospital property, and we remodeled them, got a long-term deal. I remember that going through a few years.
But what about the old PACE building? Will you use it then as a
We use it.
office space and all?
Yeah.
Just use that?
When we build the ambulance station there, we need to build a station that is capable of housing 2 ambulances. The way that property is laid out, if you can kind of picture it in your mind, that our office or house fronts on Burton Street, and directly behind it is the PACE Center. The property includes 2 lots that are on the corner of University and Burton, and that would probably be the best location for the new station. So in other words, you could build that station while you stay in the one on Burton Street.
How many acres is in this plan
It's-
that we have to?
I don't know, but it's not many acres, maybe an acre.
Yeah,
maybe an acre.
About an acre.
One no more than 2 acres.
Mm.
If that much, I don't think it's
I
2
don't
acres.
think it's even that much, I
Mm.
think probably about 1.
And most of that stuff's pretty compact right in
It's
there.
pretty tight.
You got a motion?
Yes, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mike.
Nunley. Gentlemen, we have a request for funding for Smyrna Primary School renovation. Mr. Sandvig and Mr. Clardy will join us. Gentlemen, this request comes to us from the Health and Education Committee, and they endorsed it unanimously. And at that meeting, Dr. Vogel, who is the principal of that school, gave a compelling argument for the need for the renovation. She is here this evening, but she did present that information at Health and Ed, and I'm sure you have seen that in your minutes. Mr. Clardy, are you taking the lead on this?
Yes, ma'am, I'll start. I just want to give everyone an overview of what the project actually is. And it's a media center and library addition, a new canopy at the front of the building. There's also some work that's going on in the cafeteria remodeling, and then a classroom addition at the back of the building. To get into a little bit more detail, you can see the classrooms back here. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back in the back here with restrooms and teacher work areas. And then there's 2 more classrooms here, 6, 7, with the media center. And then the cafeteria is demolishing a stage area and putting in some more lunch lines or feeding lines, and then the canopy at the front. And with that, do we have any questions on this?
You might go ahead and tell them, how many additional classrooms seats you're actually netting there. I think that's important.
We currently have 5 portables on site, but one of them being used for maintenance warehouse up on that end of the county. So that means 4 classrooms are being used in portables. So this would give us a net gain of 3 classrooms if we got rid of the portables.
And so we would get rid of the portables then?
Yes.
Through this?
Yes.
And I'm sure we still ADA and all that sort of stuff, hallways and then all that.
Yes.
School's 50 years old this year, I believe.
It is.
And a lot of it's the same way it was 50 years ago. Dr. Vogel made a very compelling case to Health and Ed, as Chairman Ely spoke of, talking about what time they start feeding lunch. It's still breakfast time in my mind, and they're starting to feed kids at 10:15, something like that.
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, because they've got to get them all through, and
Yeah.
And the cafeteria is very outdated, and their teachers got stuff being done on what little bit of a stage you have. It's been
Actually, the stage was taken out and turned into a very small space that we're now using as a computer lab.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have a computer lab. We haven't had a computer lab for the last 4 years. The shaded purple space would become a computer lab. That's a high priority for us,
Yeah.
because all of the testing that the state is now requiring is online. So we truly want our students to have a computer lab where they can complete that requirement.
I mentioned equity in Health and Ed, and it's never possible because the new schools are always nicer and have more conveniences and all than the older schools, but you just can't let them get too far out of bounds. I mean, it's just not fair for some children to go to a school that's got all the bells and whistles and let a 50-year-old school just kind of sit there, and stuff. So this, in my opinion, is a great step toward giving some equity to those children down there.
And the commission and the committees and Board of Education have all helped this school through the capital improvements program that we're on. We have new heating there, we have new roof on this, but we've never addressed the issues of giving them equity in the media center. And then, of course, we haven't added any new classrooms on.
Did they just do the new roof and heating stuff this summer? Was that the school?
Last year, yeah.
Or this last summer, rather, or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
And then the heating was a couple of years before that, heating and cooling.
That's what I was going to ask. Is that 50-year-old school? You've got issues. I mean, 50-year-old house, 50-year-old anything, 50-year-old body. You're going to have issues, you know. So, what? For some of us, anyway. I mean, is this taking care of 99% of the issues of the?
It is.
I know there's things that you just need to do.
Believe it or not, our schools are in excellent shape, the buildings that we have, and most of it's been accomplished through that capital improvements that we fund, that you fund every year. It's through development tax. I believe it's $2.5 million almost that go in every year. When you end up with 45, 47, 48 buildings, we're on a stringent roofing program where we go in and we replace roofs, and continually doing that. We're working on heating and air conditioning systems. We're putting in flooring. We're resealing parking lots. We're striping parking lots. So our buildings are really in pretty decent shape. The biggest problem that we have, and particularly on the older schools, is the classroom space. We need classroom space.
Portables,
and the portables. And when you buy a portable, you can spend $65,000 or more to get it hooked up. So, and I think mainly the county, everyone in the county's kind of been against pouring that type of money into portables without trying to get the schools on up. And those portables on that job are in really bad shape. I don't know if they can stand to move.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, so this will be done. Will it be done before next school season starts, or
we're getting a late start on it, but we're going to try to do everything we can to get it done by next August.
Well, I got several questions. Mr. Clardy, I happened to run into him before the meeting tonight, so I could ask some, but I want to hear it more so from the horse's mouth, and that's where the feed comes from, I guess is the way to put it. But I'm wondering what happens if we delay a year, because we can still use the portables there that aren't loose. And why I'm saying that, I've toured that school last fall when we had an evening up there, and there is no doubt in my mind that they need improvements there, and the expansion will help, because I used to have two very old schools in my district that have gotten up before the portion. But my point is we got a judicial building that's up to $72 million right now. And I want to make sure that we could still build it, and without, well, I'm not looking at a tax increase, because I know that there's people, they'd be happy to have Smyrna primary, be happy to have it expanded and all, and to look better. But I know there's also some of those same people don't want to pay for it if it costs any more money. And to me, right now, the most important thing is judicial building. And I want to know that we can pay for both of them without a tax increase. And looking at 2014 is a reappraisal year. I've been around here for 2 reappraisals, and both of them have been, let's put it this way, the end results haven't been that enjoyable, because at 2006, when I thought the county mayor at that time was either going to have a panic attack or a heart attack when the certified rate came out about 50 cents less than what. And the last time, we've had a lot of fun with appeals and this type thing. And I would love to see, if at all possible, to last till after this reappraisal comes out next year to see where we stand. And that's my point.
Can I respond first, and then I think there's some questions in there for the mayor and Lisa. This project has been bumped down for the last 4 years. It's bumped down and bumped down and bumped down and been put off. Now, we grew 1,100 students this year, which is 2.7% growth, I believe. We should be up here asking for an elementary school, but we made a commitment to everyone that we would take a reprieve and work on these smaller projects so that would give an opportunity for the judicial center to have a spot so that it could be done. Now, next Thursday night, or Wednesday night, we'll be meeting on our 2-year program, and we actually extend the building plan. We actually extend that out 5 years, just so we don't blindside anyone with this. And as I said, this has been coming up here constantly on that building plan. The judicial system does, the school building does need to get in there, and it needs to go now, because we're in dire need of other buildings. We're going to be asking for an elementary school. We're going to be asking for a middle school. We're going to be asking for several additions, and we're going to be asking for another high school in 5 years. So I hate to see these students up there deserve a new media center. They deserve to be moved in out of the portables, and they deserve to have a computer lab so they can test just like everyone else does in the county when it comes time. So with that said, I believe the pavement for this has been planned into the borrowing program that's been in the system for some time. Is that correct, Lisa?
Every time I've presented, when we've talked about, what's coming, I've always had Smyrna Primary in there.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was being talked about. I just did not want it to drop off. And I do, as you know, I try to keep everything on here that we're talking about. So that one's on there. And I think the request from the school board is 2.2 million request. Is that right, Jeff? I'm looking at this.
We have the bid on our.
The bid.
We have the bid on our,
2.2. But there's also, on top of that, I think the school board is committed to giving that $500,000 that Smyrna owes the school board that goes directly off to the liquor by the drink. I believe that they've gotten behind on over the last few years, and we're waiting on them to make a.
They've been busy. They've been busy.
Yeah.
Administrative duties.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're aware of it, and they've
So,
got it. And,
right.
and I don't know if all of it on the board knows what we're talking about, but the mixed drink tax, the liquor by the drink, is to be shared. That the money that goes to the city is supposed to be shared with the school system, and it's just been. I think Mark said it right. If it's not done right the first time, then it's always not done right. So it was brought to their attention, and they're working on it. And it's about $548,000 at the end of June 30th is what it's owed, and that we've talked to them. And again, they're busy. They know that this is out there.
Payment's in the works.
And payments in the works, but
Yeah.
that's $550,000 that could go toward this project. And
Yeah.
at Health and Ed, I was speaking out, but then you're saying now that the school is committed to.
I think.
We don't know if Smyrna's gonna pay it in
We
one
hope
lump
that it's
sum.
gonna commit.
We have
They haven't
discussed, we have discussed that. There's not a, formal motion or anything.
You haven't gotten the money yet.
We haven't gotten.
You may get the money over a structured time period too. They may
Yeah.
not just write a check.
But we're hoping that they will.
Yeah.
We're hoping that they will, but
So
they
you're
may
looking
not.
at 2.2 then, if that,
Well, 2.2.
throw a few ifs in there.
1.7 if you got that.
Yeah.
But again, all this that we'll kind of know,
I thought it was 2.
probably everything that we will,
Right, there's no.
by the time we go to the market, we'll know what will be with the
Oh, okay.
tax.
We just talking about Smyrna primary right here now. I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan has made a motion for approval
Of the 2.2
of the
million.
2.2 for the renovation of the primary, Smyrna Primary School.
I'll second it, but I was wanting to know the financials.
Second, okay,
on
and
it.
we'll continue with
Or
discussion.
maybe just a little bit ahead of there. Where is it coming
To
from?
be
and-
funded in a future bond issue or other revenues from the schools. Does that work? Because it will go to the school board first.
Well, in 32 years, the population of this county is to be doubled, according to what our consultant that was looking into the judicial building was saying. That's 550,000 people. So, and in 37 years, we're to be the same size as Davidson County is right now, people-wise. And the thing that scares me, hey, I could look at it a lot different, knowing that 500,000 is coming from the city of Smyrna is going to this project.
Well, I was gonna ask the
well-
motion mayor there, if we could put that in contingent of this 549,000 or whatever that is, coming from the city. Now, we don't know if it's coming in increments or what. They're looking at it. The school board's not approved, but I feel better by that, and it's in just way for it to go to Smyrna Primary. I mean, that's where the school's at, so
I don't mind putting that in.
it's actually putting it back into the community, so.
But they need to know that they've got funding of 2.2 million. They need to
Before
know
they can,
before they can
they've
sign
already got the bid in
contract.
hand. And Smyrna may say, hey, we've got to pay this over 5 years. And this contractor isn't going to accept payment over 5 years. And we
Well,
could reimburse
we're
ourselves
talking
out
about
of it.
within 30, 60 days of probably maybe getting this, right?
I'm hoping 30, 60 days, no, for sure.
Okay.
To know what's,
Okay.
but how many years did it take for this to get?
Since 2000.
I think we
I understand that piece,
This is
but
10
if
years
y'all
worth
can.
of taxes. They may not pay it all in one chunk.
Well, that's sort of up to us to push it as far as we want to push them
Yeah.
within reason.
Yeah.
They started out at a longer period than 5 years, and we told them no more than 5. And I think they're looking toward less, so we're encouraging
And we're
them.
encouraging them to go ahead and just get it off their books.
Yeah.
And just be done with it.
We really need a commitment for the entire funding
Yeah,
at this
I understand
point.
that, but I'm wanting this, when it comes in and its ramifications, that comes in and we're looking at 1.7 then, you know, so I mean, that is a difference.
Well, you
Makes it
hold-
more palatable.
Yeah, I mean, you hold the power with this, whether it comes in right for this one or the next project down the line. I think the board will be committed to apply that monies to building programs.
I know
don't
that,
think
and that's,
that'll be
you
an
know,
issue.
the point is not, and Commissioner Schaefer was making a point there on the judicial system, but, I mean, I agree, we've been pushing this thing back here, and you look at the situation and where we're growing, you know, I appreciate y'all working with us and the principal over there, and, you know, and doing what you can do to make do, but then it comes to a point where we gotta do something. So, that's where we are.
Commissioner P.
Well, I don't like being a wet blanket, especially on education. This lady back here deserves a good school, and those children in her area deserve a good school. The thing that's frustrating for me as a county commissioner who's supported education, just about every school that's come out here, and I see some heads nodding, and I know you know that's right, but it's frustrating for me when I help build a school and I take my vote from my constituents that I represent over here in the 4th District, and I build a school in Smyrna like Stewart's Creek, and then you've got 3 or 4 Smyrna commissioners that vote no for funding it, and then they can turn around and tell everybody when they're running for re-election, well, I voted against that tax increase, but look what I got you. I got you this nice school over here. Where that dummy Robert P. over there in the 4th District, he's the one that's voting yes all the time and sticking his neck out there. Well, this one time, I'm not going to stick out my neck until the commissioners up there in Smyrna stick out their necks and come out and say that yes, they will support this school, and yes, they'll support the funding on it. And when they do, they got my vote. Until then, I'm going to have to respectfully say no. And I don't want to do that. I'd like for you to call your commissioners up there, since they represent the people in Smyrna, and supposedly they're elected to represent the people in Smyrna, and they're saying no on these tax increases that are building these schools. And I say,
let's give them what they're asking for, which is a no.
I've got kind of a related question to some of the financing. First of all, I'll say I'm inclined to support this project. Dr. Vogel's convinced me that it's needed, and I don't want to hold the kids hostage to politics. But one smaller item on this financing, I watched the health and education meeting, and my understanding was that the bids came in a little bit higher than they expected. And I thought there was some mention about the school board contributing $85,000 from their unassigned fund balance towards this project. And I didn't know if that had been finalized or if that's something that we should discuss now while we're discussing the financing.
That amendment will be taken to the board next Wednesday.
The bid's $2,266,500, and our motion was $2.2 million. That's basically the $66,500.
That's correct. We'll give it the whole 85.
Well, that could be $2,185,000.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to go back to part of my original question. It hadn't gotten answered yet. And that's about if this is approved and our judicial building's going up $7 million since the last time we looked at funding for it. It's up to $72 million right now. And we've got roads that were approved 10 years ago that are going to be double in the cost by the time we get the parkway around Rutherford County finished. Okay. Are we going to be able to do this without raising taxes in the near future? I'm going to say the near future. That's like
Let me say one thing. We're not going to need the whole $72 million. We're not going to borrow that money next year. All we're going to need next year is $4 million, or we could
Or more
for the design fees. It'll take us 18 to 21 months to design that building. We won't actually borrow the big money to construct the judicial building until 2016, if that helps you in your thought processing. So for a couple of years, our debt service will more than accommodate what we're talking about here, plus the design fees.
You know, the scary thing that's been said here tonight is, what Commissioner Schaefer said, we're supposed to double in size in the next 30 years. How many schools we have? 46.
Yeah.
Double that. I mean, 46 more schools in the next 32 years. It's going to happen. That's a scary thought.
That's a scary thought.
This is a drop in the bucket compared to that.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion relative to the motion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Ball?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yeah.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
No.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
No.
Commissioner Eagley?
Yes. Okay. Motion carries. Gentlemen, do you have anything else? Thank you.
Comes up again.
Director Odom, glad you got here. Thank you.
Well, something else, because this is going to be coming.
Item number 12 on our agenda, gentlemen. The Finance Director will present this request, an approval for renewal of a $9.3 million capital outlay note.
This began in 2008, and this will be the third time that we are rolling this note. There is $9.6 million that's due, and we did put $300,000 in the budget to pay down. We had anticipated, actually, we anticipated putting this in the next bond issue, rolling it into it, but like tonight, this piece of it wasn't for sure until y'all, well, it's not for sure till next week, as far as trying to figure out how much that will be going to the market.
This is a short term.
It's very short term. To get us, it's due January 3rd.
The thing that frustrates me is how long, when did we start this?
2008.
2008. And the rest of the money we borrowed on 20-year notes. And we're 5 years into that.
Yeah.
And we're talking about rolling this into the next bond, which is a 20-year note.
Which is what we thought. But
You
we'll
know-
be paying it off in the first part of it. So I
Yeah.
already had this conversation with
But
with
I remember
Mr.
saying,
Cruz.
I remember saying this
Yeah.
before though, but it's going to end up being a 25-year note instead of a 20-year
No,
note.
because we'll pay it off in the first 15 years of that next issue.
Yeah, it's mixed in with the others, though. You can't tell which it is.
I'm picking it that it will be.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's what this is doing, is getting us to where, I'm anticipating doing this in April, March or April.
So what's the interest rate gonna be on it when you roll it?
Oh, we won't know, we'll be taking bids.
Got
But you
here
were asking me
0.9.
what the interest rate is when we get ready to
Got
borrow.
here 0.9. So they're
Last time it was
LDIP.
2.58, now we don't know, if it's gonna be more than that. Okay.
It's coming due, we gotta do something, motion to approve.
Second. And we do have to do something, yeah.
Commissioner P., was that your second?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing the issuance of interest-bearing general obligation capital outlay notes of Rutherford County, Tennessee in an aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $9,300,000, making provision for the issuance, sale, and payment of said notes, establishing the terms thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of tax for the payment of principal thereof and interest thereon. And we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sanders?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mayor Burgess, Mrs. Nolan, is there any other business?
I have no more business.
Gentlemen, any other business that needs to come before our committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Schaefer?
This Saturday, one of the greatest ham breakfasts in the world will be held at the Laverne Rescue Squad from 6 to 10 a.m. Anybody that's thinking about campaigning for anything this next year, Mr. Sandlin, would be a good place to be.
Got a swim meet down there also, so. we'll be
Okay,
down
so you
there.
can hit them all up, okay.
Is there any other business that needs to come before our committee? Gentlemen, thank you. We are adjourned.